Donald Trump sure seems to like nominating to important positions men with the shadiest of backgrounds. And you can see Pete Hegseth there, potentially our next Secretary of Defense. And I know what you're probably thinking. You're talking about the fact that he's advocated for, tons of war and torture and apologized for all this. And he's deeply misogynistic and all of that. And also he doesn't wash his hands. No, I'm not talking about that stuff. All that stuff is terrible. And if the idea is that Donald Trump is gonna be some sort of dove as president, I don't think he'd be putting a warmonger like Pete Hegseth as Secretary of Defense. So just keep that in mind as we go forward. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about Pete Hegseth gets to be yet another man that Donald Trump is interested in that apparently maybe did some bad stuff in the past. And I'm talking here about an investigation for sexual misconduct. Apparently he was accused of and investigated for sexual assault back in 2017. Now, it did not lead to any criminal charges, which obviously means that he's innocent. But anyway, according to a statement from police, the incident occurred at one old golf course road on between October 7th and October 8th. The victim, we don't know who it is, had, quote, contusions to the right thigh. And apparently this is serious enough that both the incoming chief of staff, Susie Wiles, as well as Donald Trump's lawyers spoke to Hegseth about it on Thursday. Thursday, of course, being after they nominated him for the position rather than before, which is an interesting way to order those things. But Hegseth says that the allegation stemmed from a consensual encounter and characterized the episode as he said, she said. One high-level MAGA member familiar with the allegation said Hegseth wasn't properly scrutinized before Trump made the pick. Quote, he wasn't vetted. But a senior transition source disputed this. Quote, Hegseth was vetted, but this alleged incident did come up, which is something I get. So what do you think vetting means that you didn't find the sexual assault allegation from a few years back? I don't know if you have your best people doing the vetting in that case, but again, we don't know much about this, Yaz. We don't know if it's true. I will say that the allegation obviously isn't gonna cause Trump to pull the nomination, but even if he knew that it was true, I don't know that we have a lot of faith that he'd pull it even then.
No, he wouldn't. He's just going to do whatever he wants. And this is the America that apparently most of Americans wanted. And, it is just another example of the Republican Party unapologetically associating with and elevating people who are terrible. But apart from that, how is this guy remotely qualified for the job that they want him to do? I mean, we just talked about failed meritocracy, and we just talked about putting people who actually deserve certain jobs in those jobs, like places where they can actually be beneficial and helpful. But that's what it comes down to. Like, do they want these jobs to be efficiently run? Do they want them to, to do the jobs that they're in place to do? You got to assume no, that's not what they want, right? It's not ever what they wanted. They wanted some kind of control. Trump has always talked about loyalty and how much he values that, because all he wants to do is be able to do the things that he wants to do without anyone stopping him from doing them. And that's exactly what we're seeing here. Yeah. And in the case of Peter Hegseth, he's very unqualified for the job, but how hard is it to just find someone who has not been accused of sexual misconduct to appoint to your cabinet? Why is this happening all over the place? I mean, when you have a president who himself has been accused and found guilty of sexual misconduct, then, I guess his circle of friends is, they say you hang out with like-minded people. So maybe that's just like, those are his friends, as they all are terrible, misogynistic women haters.
And I doubt it's gonna bother many conservatives. I mean, none of them care at all about the fact that Donald Trump was close personal friends with Jeffrey Epstein for years and years and years.
You have to talk about it with Clinton, because it was so bad for Clinton to be friends with Epstein, but with Trump, they just didn't talk about it. It was very strange.
It's simultaneously definitively terrible for Clinton, who we have no evidence was anywhere near as close of a friend as Donald Trump was to Jeffrey Epstein. And it's not even worthy of discussion for Donald Trump. But also, no, I don't expect any conservatives to have an issue with this, particularly because we don't know a lot of the details. But also, let's just bear in mind, they don't care about the fact that he is in no way qualified to be the Secretary of Defense. And many of these conservatives, maybe they're new conservatives, new to the MAGA movement or whatever, but any who've been around for a long time, it used to be a thing where the right, at least claimed to venerate the military and think that it was the best. And now it's just, we'll just put a jackass pundit in charge. That's what we'll do. I mean, he was in the military at one point.
He has a military history technically. It's not very
which
It's not
qualifies
nearly as high
then.
level as you would want from somebody like that
So
in that position, but
yes, totally granted, which means then that I guess literally millions of Americans are qualified to be
are
Secretary of
qualified to be the
Defense.
head of the Department of Defense.
Exactly.
Go work at the Pentagon in the highest position possible. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
they want someone who's gonna do literally anything Donald Trump says. That is
Mhm.
literally it. They don't care about qualifications in the same way that all of the bleeding that they did about like the attorney general's doing weaponization. Who do they want? They want Matt Gaetz, a
Yeah.
total toady and lackey for Donald Trump. And both of them talk constantly about wanting to go after his political opponents. They are exposing themselves for the utter liars and hypocrites that they are in supporting these comical, clownish nominations.
Yeah, I mean, like they're exposing themselves, but they're not doing any kind of like internal. They're not looking inward, you know. So a lot of these people, and I'm not talking about the people working in government. I'm talking about regular, average Republican MAGA voters. They're not seeing that cognitive dissonance. They're just not thinking about it. Like they have to. Like I have to believe that they're not thinking about the fact that like why is this a bad thing for Bill Clinton and not a bad thing for Donald Trump? I don't know what their grasp on reality is. I don't know how their logic works. And that makes me uncomfortable. Like, whenever I'm around a Trump voter, I get uncomfortable because I literally don't know what you believe is happening in this world. It feels like their grasp on reality is very far removed from what I understand to be reality. And that's, to a certain extent, that's normal. We all live very different lives. We all have very different experiences, and we're all going to perceive the world differently. But whenever I have Trump supporters in my life talking about how the Democrats are shooting hurricanes at Florida, it makes me uncomfortable because it's like, I don't know what you believe anymore. I don't like, there is no baseline, there is no benchmark for logic in your world anymore.
Yeah, they want to win, and
Yeah.
they define that as whatever Donald Trump said would be winning. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter if it actually improves their life or whatever. Just like imply that I'm
I mean,
imply that
even if
I'm
it
better.
doesn't, they'll deny it. They'll, in their heads, life is better now that Trump has been elected, whether or not it actually proves to be better for them.
Oh yeah, no. If the tariffs end up raising prices, don't worry. It's probably some
It's definitely
Salvadoran.
still the
It's his fault.
Democrats' fault. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
definitely still the
exactly.
Democrats' fault.
Look, he at least he has going for him that he can coast off the fact that wages are rising at least a little bit, inflation is down, and unemployment is low. That'll last for at least a bit. We'll see how
Mhm.
quickly he can wreck that with the tariffs, but we'll find out together. Members make a difference here at TYT. You help make the show happen, and we see you in the chat with your loyalty badge. Click the join button to become a member today.